you ready for a little Southern humor mixed with relevant topics we can all relate to? We're about to pull back the curtains and mix it up. Scoot your chair up. It's time to talk about all the things and ask all the questions. Welcome to Get It Together, y'all.
Well, hi, everybody. So glad you joined us today. You know, have you ever heard the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know? Well, I hate to brag, but I know some people. And we got some people today. We got a big time person today sitting on our couch that I'm excited for you guys to get to meet and hear so many things that you're just going to be very encouraged and inspired and challenged, and you're gonna feel like you have met somebody that is behind the scenes on everything happening, because she is that girl. So anyway, glad that you're here today. My name is Cindy Larson, and I am your host for Get It Together, y'all. And you all know my co-host April.
I am, and I'm April Potter, your co-host. And, you know, I was just sitting here thinking the same thing about our guest. I was like, she is such a connector, and she's such a, she wants to speak into everybody's life.
Okay,
you know?
but she's one of the sweetest people. So
Yes.
very much of a giver and an includer.
Mm-hmm.
There have been
Networker.
Absolutely. But we go way back to an old church situation, and she has a mother that I can't wait to talk about, because I
Yes.
love her dearly. But anyway, so you have these relationships in your life that are like distant sisters, and if you ever need them, you just, no time has passed. And so I'm excited about today.
Yes, I am too. We have Wanette Robertson with us.
Hi, everybody. How you doing out there? Hi.
And if you'll tell, I know her thing goes a mile long, but can you just tell maybe in a synopsis who you are?
Who I am. I always tell people I can't do that in one or two sentences.
Well,
but I'll
you
attempt.
just tell us.
Yes.
I'll attempt. I am a 61-year-old woman
Yeah.
who is still out here trying to make a difference in the world that I live in, and
you do
my
make a
sphere of
difference.
influence, as they
Yes.
say. Thank you. And I have a music background. I
Yeah.
have similar background to you,
Yeah.
in that we were both raised in homes that had, music
Yeah.
and faith.
You wrote a book
and-
about your dad, didn't you?
It's actually my dad and my grandfather.
Okay,
Yeah, that
and
was
let
back
me
in
think about it a second.
2009. I
The
wrote
Man
that.
Who Loved Souls.
That's it.
I remember that.
Yeah, what an unusual name for a book,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a story behind that too.
Well, you can tell
Yeah.
us.
So, I guess I'm done with the synopsis, so I'll just jump into that, because
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that. Even though that book was written many, many years ago,
Yeah.
which when I say many, I'm talking 15. It was the culmination of a lifetime as a granddaughter, sitting on the floor with spiral notebooks.
Yeah.
At the age of, like 10, 11, 12 years
Yeah.
old, and listening to their stories about their revivals and the places they planted churches and built brick by brick, and things that happened to them. And I remember one day when I was like 12 telling my grandfather, this was my dad's father, one day, Papa, I'm going to write a book about you. And him telling me, honey, you don't need to write a book about me.
Yeah.
He said, there's a whole lot that can be accomplished for the kingdom of God as long as you don't care who gets the credit. And I never forgot that statement.
Yeah.
And so I even put that in the book. And I was like, Papa, but people need to know your stories, because they are inspiring and they're life-changing, and they could literally be a blessing to somebody.
Yeah.
Even people that don't necessarily believe like you do, they can be an inspiration.
You know
So
what
we
I
did.
liked about that book is that it was almost like a time capsule. So the way you wrote it, it's like you were pulling us back into that time when there was just an innocence and just a sense of really God can do anything. There was just a wide-eyed, your story is just, it was an amazing read, and I thank you
Good.
for the autobiography. I guess you wouldn't call it that, I guess, because you were writing it from
his
the-
perspective.
his
And what the way
perspective.
the subtitle is Memoirs of a Mountain Preacher.
Yeah.
And I would tell people, if you like books about old time preachers and maybe the holiness movement from the early 1900s that were backwoods that didn't have an education,
Yeah.
that walked around in the woods following the leading of the Lord, you
Yeah.
know, going wherever they felt like they were led to go, and sometimes walking around with no shoes on their feet and
Yeah.
overalls and, you know, but their little derby hat to
Yeah.
show a little class, and you know, walking up to people's doors and inviting them. I mean, it was like you said, it was a different time back
Yeah.
then. The way people interacted with people was they literally were face to face. They knocked on doors.
Yes.
They said hello. They invited them to church.
Yeah.
I'm building a church down the street, or I've got a tent set
belly
up,
to
or
belly.
whatever. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
belly to belly. And that I learned so much. Now at 61, I look back on it. I think I said to myself the other day, he would be about 105 now if he was still living. That he was probably, and I don't mean anything against my parents,
Right.
but he and his wife Lottie, my grandmother Lottie, were probably the two most influential people that ever were in my life. And
Wow.
still to this day, I find myself doing and seeing and acting and reacting to things the way that saw them do, you
Wow.
know, when you invite people into your home and you feed them and
Yeah.
you clothe them and you
Yeah.
see if you look for a need and you fill it.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a calling, if you will. I just think it's just the way God made me, was just to be that person that, like April said, connects people, but also is listening and looking for the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know,
What a
because we
cute
all can
name.
do that.
What a cute name, Lottie.
I know. I
Lottie.
can't get over it. I love it.
Is it short for something?
No, that was actually her name.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed
But let
with
me
that
tell you the
name
cutest
now.
story. She used to make her contribution to what they did in the world was she wasn't the typical pastor's wife with the played piano and sang.
Yeah.
She could not do either.
Okay.
But what she would do is she would raise money to build these churches or
Wow.
to help kids in neighborhoods.
Wow.
She'd make quilts, or she would make dolls. Like
Wow.
you remember the old pillow dolls that were
Yeah.
made out of the netting, and they would be big like Barbie dolls in them and
Yeah.
stuff. She would make those. So one time we were like, we're going to do a business. We're going to call it Lottie Dolls, but it would be Lottie Da, kind of spelled kind of like Lottie Da,
Yeah.
but Lottie Dolls. And we never did push through with that, but I've often thought, and I've made a few of those dolls since she passed away, in her memory, to give to people. I've often thought it would be really cute to do that, but I never did
Wow.
it. So that's my trademark. Nobody can steal it.
You're on record. This is timestamped.
That's it. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
so
Yes.
yeah, thank you for that.
Well-
The book was great, but there's so much more to be said.
One of the things that we do on this show is we talk about our Southern mothers. So we've already got
my.
a start, a running
Yes.
start
Grandmother.
on
Southern
that.
grandmother.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they say that the grandchildren and grandparent relationships are so strong.
Yes, they are.
And I have a granddaughter, so I finally get to be a grandmother,
that.
and I'm just so crazy about her. And she's getting to the age where I think she knows me. Like, her mama's thought she knew me from day one, but I'm like, we'll get there. She
Yes.
will, but she will she'll pull up to my house and she'll get the giggles. She's like 14 months old, 15 months old. And we'll pull up here and she'll get the giggles because she loves her regular routine. So if she gets to come to the podcast studio or whatever, we have to isolate her from talking to me. But it's a special relationship. I heard that it's because they have a common enemy.
Okay.
Grandchildren and grandparents
Yes.
have a common enemy. Do you get it? It's a joke. It's a joke. But I want to talk about your mother is
Yeah.
precious, piano playing. Speaking of all the
Like yours.
yes, yeah. I dated two different guys in my life. One just for I think one date, but I liked one of them. There were two guys in my life that kind of interviewed me to see if I would make a good pastor's wife. And I intentionally flunked that course. Like, do you play piano? I'm like, you know what? I know what this is.
Yes.
This is an interview. See, we're going to pastor's wife because I'll be a little rebellious, I think. But I'm probably going to flunk that test. But your mother, talk a little bit about
Yeah.
your mother because I remember her. There was a season when we went to church together, and she would go every week to the nursing home.
Yes.
And I would go, and my grandmother was there, so she would faithfully come, and I would sing, and we, when I could come, I didn't come all the time, but she was there every week. And
Wow.
Blake Goff.
Yeah, and he still helps her.
Okay,
Yeah, she's
okay.
still doing it.
Are you serious?
I'm
right
totally
now?
serious. My mother does, she calls it Mender Ministry.
Oh.
And she goes to retirement villages, and most of the time it's with the locations like where the people cannot get out. They're basically homebound in the facility. And she will go in every month. As well as on holidays, she'll bring in gifts for all the residents that decide they want to join her. She has no restrictions on that whatsoever. Of course. She just wants to love on anybody that wants to be loved on.
Yeah.
So she's a piano player, as you said. So she goes in and
she
she
sings.
hands out hymnals and lets some pick out songs, and they sing along for a little while, and then she reads a little story for them. And if she's got a special guest, like you mentioned, you guys going, she lets them do something as well. They don't need a ton of time. They just
Right.
need a little time to know that somebody's thinking of them every
Right.
month. And she still does that to this day. I go as often as I can.
Yeah.
And especially on the times when she needs a few extra hands to carry things in.
Right.
But she's been doing that, and a perfect example, of the influence of those around her as well, because her parents, my other set of grandparents, were also ministerial pastors, and that's how my parents actually met. Was one held a revival at the other church, and my dad saw my mom playing the piano. That
my
piano,
gosh.
I'm telling you, that
This
piano.
piano's a drawback.
I'm telling you. But anyway,
miss this.
she's been doing that for years, and she's also works with the Gideons nationwide. Now, that's mostly a men's organization, but they
Right.
also allow the wives to also have their own call or purpose, and they go out and do a lot of really great things in the community as a group. The women do, and my mother's been very active in that as well. And she still travels and sings.
So she's such an encourager. Every time you see her, she cannot wait to see you.
Yeah, she's
going to
awesome.
run, give you a hug and a kiss, and
Yeah.
then she's going to tell you everything great about you.
And I was her firstborn. And she married back in the day when, getting married at 14, 15 was no big deal. And she was 14 when they got married.
Whoa.
My dad was almost 17, I believe.
Wow.
And actually, he had just turned 17. And they were two pastors' kids that just loved each other and couldn't,
Is he still alive?
My dad passed away about 10 years ago.
Okay.
But I'm so glad for the legacy that I was left. And I feel like I stand on his shoulders every day.
Oh, yeah.
And the successes and the blessings and the favor that I have.
Yeah.
I feel like my dad and my grandparents, the generations before, they paid the prices,
Right.
that I could benefit.
He was
from.
I remember him as being such a kind fella.
My dad was a good-looking man too. Let me
He
tell you.
was. Did your mom? And I don't remember this because it's been, a decade or more, a couple of decades maybe since we were doing all that. But is she a cook? Is
Oh, are you
she
kidding me?
Seamstress?
Yes.
And all that?
She actually the next book I wrote was the book called The Cookbook. Her maiden name is Cook.
I don't think I knew
Okay,
about this
I know you
book.
don't, but we did this about 3 or 4 years ago. One year, my mom said, "I really am concerned about the stories being lost,
Yeah.
and the family recipes, because her family used to run restaurants."
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
they were in the Kentucky. They had one in Kentucky and one in the Ohio.
Okay.
And they had all these cook family recipes. So I told her one day, I said, "Mom, why don't we do a cookbook that also has stories in it
Wow.
and scriptures that you love that associate with the different stories?" So she did like 31 stories in the book, and
Wow.
each story had a specific recipe that
Yeah.
went with it.
Wow.
And then she had additional recipes in the back of the book with family stories. And then she put the family lineage in the back with the prayer of salvation and some
Wow.
other things, so that if someone were to read her stories and feel that like they want to learn more, you
Yeah.
know, or they want to pray, or they want encouragement, or to reach, or to know more about her family, they would know it. And the idea was not to sell the book, but the idea was to create enough copies for her to give to all of her descendants.
Oh, like a legacy project.
Yes, a legacy project, and it turned out fabulous.
Wow. Well, one of the things that April and I do, we have different categories of shows. This show is in the category of why not? I mean, who
Okay.
cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Because we're going to get to your foundation and your nonprofit. So it's a who cares show. But one of the categories of programming that we do is a kitchen table talk. So we need to have
Miss Brenda.
Miss Brenda on
You
and
do.
have her bake us something
Yes.
and tell us the story, and we can.
She would love that.
Oh, that would be fun.
She would love that. She'll pull a story out of the book and,
Yeah.
and bring that with you.
Yeah.
Probably the most popular thing was her peach cobbler
Oh, wow.
story. That's a great story. She's got stories in there about the births of stories about each of her kids and some of her
Okay.
grandkids, and early in her life stories, times of hardship.
Yeah.
When she lost a child.
Oh.
You know, there's such. It's a great inspiring book, and it's not really that it's not really for sale.
Right.
It's not that I wouldn't give it to someone if they asked me for it, and I will. But it's just it was more of a, like you said, a legacy project. And I'm actually working on another book now. I'm actually working on 2 books. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you know, we love it. We love the stories. That's why
Thank
we
you.
do this.
For
And
sure.
we love to talk about everybody's Southern mother. We
Yes.
both have Southern mothers, and so sometimes we have guests on that their mothers are not from the South, so we have to educate them.
Yes.
But you shared with us the sweetest story, so thank you for sharing. Where was your mother born? Do you
She
remember?
was actually born in Kentucky.
Okay.
She's a Kentucky girl. I was born in Kentucky too.
You were?
And she was raised in southern, like right across the border, like near where the Cincinnati Stadium is,
Yeah.
in a little town called Newport, Kentucky.
Oh.
And she was raised in that area. I should say, lived there for
Yeah.
a while because, again, she got married at 14. So
Yeah.
after 14, I don't remember everything, but I would say
Yeah.
she was born in Kentucky, definitely a Southern girl, and has the epitome of that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of her, the way she was raised.
Before we get on to another chapter, I think this is a great segue for you to bring up what a great Southern mother you are.
Oh,
and your
you think?
son is like, I follow you and follow him, and he's like become so. So listen, remember what I told you about? You know, we know people. I'm just like, this is exciting because he's on a roll.
Yes.
How do you handle that?
I
Talk about
know.
your son
Okay,
and tell
okay.
about his career.
Well, I had a career in music years ago. I mean, I worked in like all the tourist towns like Branson and Myrtle Beach and Pigeon Forge and everything.
Yeah.
And did backed up a lot of country music legends as well as opened for a lot, and I somehow found myself in becoming a Patsy Cline impersonator somewhere along the path there.
Yeah.
And I continued that into later in life, and I did not have my son until I was 34.
Really?
Yes.
My
and
daughter's 34 and just had a baby.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so it seems to be the new thing, the new
It
trend
is.
is for
Later.
women to get their careers first going and then
Yeah.
have children later. And in his case, he was a miracle. I was told I couldn't have kids. So my first thought was to panic because I
Right.
was trying to pursue my music and was doing very well with that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of settled down there a couple weeks into it, realizing, okay, there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
Let's see what that reason is. Let's trust a little
Yeah.
bit in what my fate is here.
Yeah.
And so as the years went by, my son's name is Chase, he would watch me do Patsy Cline and come
Mm-hmm.
home late at night, and he wouldn't be in bed yet. And I'd be like, why aren't you in bed? Well, I wanted to see Mom. I wanted
Yeah.
to. So his only memories of that, of my career are the after effects, not the Branson years, not the touring years,
Right.
just the shows every once in a while years because I was a mom now.
Yeah.
And so he grew up around music. I made sure that he had everything he wanted. he really loved drums first. Then it was guitars. Then it was I want a bass. Then it was I want keyboards. And then it was I'd like to
Everything.
have a video camera because I think I'd like to produce video too. And then it was, Mom, I think I'd like to help other people produce videos of music. And I was like, what is this kid doing?
Yeah.
You know, even when he was 11 and 12, I kind of knew that there was something coming.
Yeah.
But I gave him the name that I gave him because I felt like that might be what God was up to and let me have a
Okay.
child that I didn't think I could ever have.
Yeah.
And of course, I never had any more. It was an absolute fluke. You can call it a fluke. You can call it whatever you want, but I call it a miracle.
Yeah.
And that son is my only son. His name is Chase. He goes by the stage name Chase Matthew, which is actually his middle name.
Okay.
Matthew was the name I gave him as a gift from God, is what that's is kind of like the meaning of Matthew. And I gave him the name Chase at the hospital because I felt like I wanted him to have an action name, pursuing, going after,
Yeah.
you know, running for it kind of thing. And don't you know, that's exactly who he turned out to be.
Wow.
This kid he's like, what do you call it? The Energizer Bunny that does not know when to stop. And he's pursuing music, singing, songwriting, video production. He's now got his own. He's producing a new show that he's been sponsored by Lucas Oil Products, and he's gotten into tinkering with cars. And well, he's always done that.
Yeah.
But they've sponsored him, and he's going to have this little show. They're taping episodes now where they follow him on tour, and I'm giving you hints now. And so, you know, it's been really great to be his mother.
Yeah.
And I like to call myself a Southern mother because we moved here when I was 15.
Wow.
So that was before I became a mother.
Yeah.
So I am a Southern mother all the way.
I think it's
So-
awesome. And he's had like
I forgot about that.
his successes.
Yeah. So, you know.
Because everybody needs to, know how to
Check him
find
out.
his
Sure,
music and
sure. Well,
everything.
I mean, I appreciate you giving me
Yeah.
that opportunity to do that. He likes for me to not tell people who I am because
Yeah.
he always is concerned that people will
I
try to
understand.
bother me, you
Yeah.
know. But I tell him it's okay. I'm very proud that you're my son, and
Yeah.
and I know how to take care of myself.
And that's
you know.
part of being a Southern mother is being so proud of your,
Oh,
that's one
yeah,
thing I
we live
love
for
about
that.
you is you're so proud of him.
Are you kidding me? I
it's
mean,
like-
every day I try to share my journey
Yeah.
with my own social media, and I think those friends of mine that my profile is private, but I share it with my friends because I want them to know what's going on with him and just sharing my my joy of that. But Chase, in 2021, he started hitting the ground really hard, running with music, and he wrote a song or two that were really good. And he decided he dabbled in rap for a while.
Okay.
He dabbled in kind of more of a pop sound for a while, but he realized that the country music genre has really expanded so much.
he's
I mean,
all of
you
it.
guys would know. April,
Yes.
you would know, especially being, working in the industry today. The country music genre has just become
Blown
so
up.
broad with so
Yes.
many different types of categories. So he kind of fits in that country / not pop, but new wave country sound.
Absolutely.
It's a new sound.
Yeah.
And they wear cowboy boots.
Yeah.
But it's more of like they wear Richardson 112 hats and,
Yeah.
like the baseball caps and all of that
Right.
most of the time. But he still loves to wear his cowboy hat from time
He's
to
got
time.
a huge following.
Huge
now.
following. He has had well over 1 billion with a B streams already.
Wow.
In just this short amount of time. His first hit song is now platinum.
Wow.
And he has 2 gold records as well, and has a lot more things coming. He gave me one of the first gold record. He gave me one too.
Oh.
So it's on my wall, and I keep telling him, "That's your wall.
Yeah.
So you decide how you're going to fill that wall."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
And that's going to put some pressure on you. But let me tell you, I know you can do it.
For years, we lived near the. We're going to get to this next part of your life here, but Mark and I lived on the lake in Hendersonville,
Yeah.
and when we had friends come to town, we would sometimes go and drive by Johnny Cash's house,
Yes.
and it's burned down now. One of the Bee Gees bought it, and and redoing it. It burned it anyway. But one thing that we always liked showing people was here's Johnny's house, and then across the street was his mother's house, and she always kept the blinds pulled. I mean, the curtains pulled so that everybody could see in the picture window Johnny's gold records that he had given her, and that was so sweet because all the tour buses would come by and look at Johnny Cash's house, and then his mama. So you're the mama.
I am, and I'm so excited. And of course, this journey is still continuing for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already confided in me where he's headed next year on an international tour.
Okay.
And who he's with, and everyone knows who it is, but I'm not allowed to say.
That's all right.
But this year he went on tour with Luke Bryan for about 6 dates, and he's still on tour, mixing dates in with his own headlining shows with Jason Aldean right now.
Yeah.
So things are going really well for him. He just recently bought a second bus, and you know how buses, they're expensive and they're hard to maintain. And he wrapped them finally, and they now match. So, men, they love their motorized vehicles. So for him, that was like, another one of those steps up. I got my buses and they're wrapped exactly the way I want them. And so he's doing great. I'm super proud of him. But I tell him all the time, I'm proud of you. But the biggest thing I'm always going to be proud of you most for is that you're true to who you are, and don't ever let anybody keep you from sharing what you want. And no matter how big you get, you be you.
Right.
And he spends 5 to 6 minutes of every show and talks about his faith and how he feels about being an encourager to people in the world. And I can't help but think some of that rubbed off from me, because I feel. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, and my grandfather, but that seemed to be kind of my grandfather, my dad, and myself, and we all kind of had a encourager's personality, and we were just looking for the opportunity to help and encourage. And I see that in him. I see that in him on stage. I see that in him when he goes and takes a pair of cowboy boots to a foster kid that he heard that needed shoes and that's the kind of thing my grandfather used to do. And I wrote stories in the book about that, where he would leave his shoes in somebody's house because they'd say, I can't go to church because I don't have shoes. And he would leave their house, and they didn't realize he left with no shoes because he wanted to see them show up.
And he loved souls.
Yeah, he loved them.
And that's just so perfect. And so today, I mean, you live rent-free in his head. You know
it. He's living rent-free in mine, too.
That's so great. But today, one of the things that I think is so cool, and our audience will think is really cool, is you host a lot of people. You take care of so many people, and you want to talk about your like
day job.
I do, but the first thing I want to say is, before I share, I just want to say I am so blessed to do what I do, and I can't even express when I try to tell people the way I feel about the season of life I'm in right now is so extraordinary. And it's not that I deserve it or anything. It's just that I just was the fortunate one that got that opportunity. But I have a day job. Yes, I have a day job, and my official title is events and audience producer for the Mike Huckabee Show that airs on the Trinity Broadcasting Network weekly on Saturday nights, just to give them a little bit of a plug. And I've been doing this since day one. I was part of the inception process. I got to help kind of create the experience for the audience and people that come onto the property to experience. It was really fun to be able to be a process of the beginnings of it. And here we're in the 7th season now.
Are you really?
Yeah, 7 year. We're in the 7th year. We're in at episode number 360.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
And so Governor Huckabee recently re-signed for a couple more years. They do it like every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I know at least I've got a couple more years of a career in this. But so I'm excited about that. It's a joy because I get to meet people from all over the world that fly in, drive in, boat in, however they come, because we do have Old Hickory Lake around here.
Yes, we do.
To come and be part of the live audiences. Yes. And seriously, it's been incredible. I've met people and heard some extraordinary stories over
Yeah.
the years. And of course, working with him and with the TBN, I've been with them for 10 years at the TBN Nashville location. But it's just been such a blessing. The staff there and the people that you work with are just really special people. And I count it an honor and a privilege to be able to do what I do.
You must do a great job. I mean, I think you do a great job.
Thank
What I
you.
can tell, what do I know? But I just think you're
appreciate that.
amazing.
Thank you.
And I love it when, because we are social media friends, and I'll see on there, you'll go, we're taping, and
Yes.
so.
We've got
it's
seats available.
fun.
seats
Yes.
available,
Yes.
and you always take care of whoever is there, and you're such a great host, and
Thank you.
such a great people person, and you're just on the job. And sometimes I see your mom signing people in, and I'm just like, it's
She's really
just
good at
family.
it. But
Yeah.
one of the side blessings is I get to meet people like Jim Caviezel and
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, all of these Hollywood actors and actresses and musical. We've had like the Beach Boys. We've had Meatloaf before he passed away. He came on and performed like 1 month before he passed away.
Wow.
So that's some of the additional fun stuff
Yeah.
is that I've been able to see some extraordinary talent
Yeah.
come in or interviews of people. I'm like, I did not know that. I'll sit in the back and go, what
Yeah.
did I just see or hear?
Yeah.
And it's quite amazing. It's
awesome.
I call it a variety show because it's not just what's in the news. It's entertainment. It's music. It's comedy. It's it could be an American Idol contestant that's on there or a
You
guy
have
on
the
a
best
trapeze.
musicians.
I agree.
Oh, my
they're
gosh.
really good.
Just really on point, like the best in town. And so a lot of those guys are, I'll tune in sometimes and go, well, look who's playing. And
Yeah.
we know all those players
Yes.
and
Right.
everything from our music side, but you do have it all. So one of the things that, kind of we want to get to is the nonprofit that you have, and that's why we slated this in for the Who Cares show, and because you care a lot, and so
Yes.
talk about your passion with this nonprofit, because April is on your board.
Yes,
and
I'm
I think
very
it's
lucky
so
to have her.
great.
Oh,
Yes, thank you for that because I'm very passionate about this. And like I said, my grandfather used to always say, as long as you don't care who gets the credit, there's a lot of, and that stuck with me, as I said. And even in serving community, that stuck within my head.
Yeah.
Is that as long as I don't care who gets the credit. And so I was one day, of course, my whole life, I've been around music and I've seen what music can do. I've
Right.
seen how effective music is in healing people and encouraging people and inspiring people and just making people laugh and be
Yeah.
joyful and, have a good time.
Yeah.
Have a party. Let's have some fun. And so I always thought it would be really great to be able to use music in a way that nobody else has and change people's lives and be a blessing. So what is that? So I started kind of pondering that, and I realized I started doing research in the greater Nashville area, and I found out that the households that were food insecure was over 20%.
Wow.
At the time when I did the research, it was like 21.8%.
Wow.
And then when you started looking at the individual counties, it was frightening.
Wow.
And so then I started reading more, and it said that, and out of those households, only 1 in 4 qualifies for government help.
Wow.
So what do the other 3 families do
Yeah.
that can't get government assistance because maybe they make too much but not enough? They're stuck.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I think we're going to try to do something that can kind of lean more toward helping kids and families with children, we'll say.
Yeah.
Well, we realized that we needed to have a plan, and so I started thinking about it, and I read a scripture one time, and it used the term or the phrase in it, the least of these.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's who I'm talking about,
Yeah.
is the least of these. So we created a charity, a public charity called Music Amplifies. Amplifies is an action word.
Yes.
It's exactly what, our slogan is amp up.
yeah.
It's amp up. And if you amp up, then that means you must have donated or you gave or you supported or you brought toys or whatever. You amped
Right.
up. And so we decided to launch it, and lo and behold, my sweet boy is the one who dropped the first $1,000 and said, "Mom, is this what you really want to do?" I said, "I would love to, but I don't have the money that it costs to launch a nonprofit
Right.
and to do all the paperwork and pay all the
Right.
fees." And he said, "I got you."
Oh,
And so he's the one that actually helped me fulfill a dream
Yeah.
of mine. And so in 2021, our first Christmas, we focused around the holidays. We were able to help almost 400 kids by partnering with some different organizations that have
Right.
already done the homework.
Yeah.
We let them do the homework. They identify the kids and the families
Mm-hmm.
and the ones to keep the people from double dipping, so to speak.
Right.
Which wouldn't have bothered me if they did.
Right.
But the bottom line is we can help more kids if we
Let
spread
them
it
do
out
what
and let
they
them do what
do,
they do. We do
and-
what we do.
Yeah.
And we were able to help almost 400 kids that year. We ran into a snag that year, and I tell people this story because we and April has helped me with this. We encourage music artists and people that are like writers and office staffers, anybody involved in music in any capacity, to help us become a volunteer or be an ambassador for us. And we had Chase take the toys to the YMCA that year to deliver them to the other partner that was meeting us there, that was actually in charge of the parents coming to pick things up. And they approached Chase and said, "Chase, does your organization do anything more than toys?" And Chase was like, "I don't know. I'll have to check. Why?" And the woman said, "We have a little boy that needs a bed. And we don't have any other resources to help this kid." My kid went out without talking to me and bought a bed and
Yeah.
bought the mattress box spring, the frame, the whole thing, and took
Yeah.
it back to them, said, "Hold on, I'll be back in an hour," and took it. And he came and told me that story, and it broke my heart. I started to cry. I was like,
Yeah.
we have to do more than toys. This is,
Right.
wait a minute,
Right.
what else can we do? So in 2022, we decided that we would launch an event or two a year where we host it and we can derive additional funds so that we can do more than toys. We
Yeah.
can do hats, coats, undergarments,
Yeah.
shoes, whatever the requests that may come in,
Right.
we can possibly help some other kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since 2022, that number has grown to 900 last Christmas from the 370 or 80
Right.
in the first year. So every year it's increased at least 100 kids. And in addition to that, we decided last year to add veterans and aged programs.
Okay.
The bottom line is the least of these, the most vulnerable in the world,
Yeah.
is not just kids.
No.
It could be anybody. It could be
Right.
you. It could be me.
Right.
Because at different seasons of life, things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can all become vulnerable.
Right.
And so last year we were able to also partner with several veteran organizations and bless them, and aged programs and bless them to be able to provide Christmas gifts for some elderly folks that,
Yeah.
that need some assistance.
Yeah.
And so as it's going, we're still kind of young at this. We're identifying the needs every year. We're growing, and as we get more awareness, we're growing in other areas as well.
Yeah.
We're identifying the needs, trying to figure out who we are, and what is going to be our legacy is still to be determined.
Yeah.
But we're dedicated to it, and we're right now in the middle of planning our annual Amp Up for Kids Night, which I would
Yeah.
love to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
And that is a specific event with a specific date where we invite people to come and see some and hear some great entertainment.
That's awesome.
To help the kids. So that's the how it all started was just realizing there's a need, and what was in my hands, as
Yeah.
they say,
Yeah.
was music.
Yeah.
Marketing and advertising background,
Yeah.
and a heart that wants to help people.
Yeah.
And that's how we all do it, right?
Yeah.
We can all find a way to help,
It's a networking. We
Yeah.
talk about this all the time, right, April?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And we've met so many cool people that
Haven't we?
that even has the same heart. And you're like, oh, I didn't know they were doing this, or and then you pull your resources
Yes.
and are able to just reach even more people.
Truly.
you know?
And I had someone reach out to me actually like yesterday and say, "Hey, I've got like half a truckload of this.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody that could use it?" Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't. but I'm going to find out
Oh,
who
right,
needs it, and I'm going to
right.
take it. I'm going to take it, and
You
I'm
know
going to get
some-
it to them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Absolutely.
Even if I don't know anybody yet, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get you somebody.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's really about that. And we've met so many really cool people, and along the way have found people that really have said, I want to be a part of this all the time,
Yeah.
every year. So we are growing, and we're looking for more people that want to help the least of these.
Yeah.
You know, we do lean mostly on families with kids.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're year round. We're available year round if anybody wants something. And if we can't get it for you, we have civic partners
Yeah.
and organizations that we can turn you on to, so to
You're
speak.
part of a network of wraparound services.
Yes.
So the fact that you've been able to network with other, specialty agencies, because a lot of times they just have a sliver.
Yes.
I've worked with agencies that 12 to 17, but then from 17 another agency's got to
Yes.
take over, and
Yes.
so they're just specific things that some agencies focus in on, or their
Yes.
guidelines, because you can't do everything. But you've got some freedom and some liberty,
We do.
and that's really great.
We can do what we want to do, and we can be flexible, but we know where to send you. Like,
Yeah.
we've got a partner that helps kids that are aging out of the foster system that need
Right.
help setting up apartments and
Right.
getting a start in life as an adult.
Right.
We've got connections.
Yeah.
So, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think that was the way the world was intended to be.
Exactly. We'll put the information on
sure.
our social and our website and everything. So people that want to donate, they're going to find your information.
Yeah, they
and
can
that's
do
really
that, or
great.
they can find out at musicamplifies.com about our upcoming Bluegrass Bash that's coming up on
That's
November the
awesome.
10th. If they want to buy tickets or buy a table for a party, it's all family friendly. We're going
Yeah.
to have a great time. We raise money,
We're
to get it
planning
done.
on coming. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know this, but
I
I'm
love
going to be
that.
invited.
Yeah.
You should
Yeah,
do a,
it's on
I
our
don't, you could do
calendar.
a live
Yes.
podcast from there for all I care. That would be wonderful.
That would be really awesome. We do
And-
have that on our calendar
Yeah.
that we share. Is like, don't forget that. That's
Did you say where it was?
Oh, no, I didn't. It's
Yeah.
actually at the historic Texas Troubadour Theater that is
Awesome.
just
Out by
down the
Opryland.
street by the Opryland Hotel. If you know
Yeah.
the Opryland
The old
Hotels.
Ernest Tub.
Yes, the old Ernest Tub. They used to have a record shop right adjacent
It was
to
right,
it.
right next
Yeah,
door.
so it'll be about 400 people. It'll be a nice, intimate show, but big enough to have fun, small enough to
Yeah.
be intimate. And we'll also have a silent auction.
Can you tell who's on it yet? Or have we
I
released
can
that?
if you I can tell you a few of the guests.
Yeah.
I know some of our ambassador or musical guests are going to open for some of our more upcoming the upcoming artists are going to open for the more experienced artists that are out there like doing it for a living. But we do have 4 or 5 of our ambassadors. But our main theme is Bluegrass Bash. So we're hoping to maybe do this once a year. But we have the Cody Norris Show. These guys are like
Aw.
reigning, Bluegrass
Yes.
Band of the Year.
Yes.
And then Darren and Brooke Aldridge are like, they've been on the Opry like
yes.
55 times.
Yeah.
They're Opry favorites. And they are going to share their music with us. And we have, like I said, 5 or 6 of our ambassadors are going to come and open for them. It's just going to be a huge night. We're also inviting people to dress in their best country western outfits for
love
prizes.
it. Oh,
Yes.
that's
And
fun.
that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And we'll auction
Cindy's
off
like,
some
I'm
fun
there.
things.
I'm so
Yes.
there.
Love a reason for a costume.
Get that rhinestone and all that fun stuff on, because we are going to have a blast.
That's awesome. Well, I hope you have really enjoyed getting to know Wanette today, and feel like that we are all family, and that hope you've enjoyed sitting around with us and felt like you were on the couch on the other side.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next week on Get It Together, y'all. We're here to help. Bye-bye for now.